Yes. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear all member and distinguished guests. So my name is Warapat. I'm one of the SPE Thailand board, and I will be the facilitator and MC for tonight. And on behalf of SPE Thailand Board of Directors, I would like to welcome you all to SPE Thailand Monthly Technical Meeting of January. So this month we're gonna have a very interesting topic about the geothermal. Thank you for being here tonight, and we are so happy to see many familiar faces supporting our event. And also special welcome to our students. Could you please raise your hand for any student that join here tonight? Nope. I should be more, right? Okay, give a round of applause to our student. Thank you very much. Okay, before we continue to our agenda, I would like to take the note about the safety announcement. There is no emergency plan tonight, so in case of the alarm goes off, please stay calm and follow the exit direction as designated by the hotel. And here is our agenda tonight. So we start with the sexual announcement, and then we're gonna have the one of SPE program chair introduce our speaker, and then will be the main presentation, followed by the Q&A session and closing remark. And the last one will be the exciting part is the lucky draw. And for the section announcement, okay. So SPE Thailand section has been established in 1980 and it's as a non-profit organization and proudly present over 1,000 professional and student members from the diverse discipline in the upstream petroleum industry. And our mission is to promote the knowledge sharing, exchanging in the professional development and community building to ensure a sustainable future of the exploration and production E&P industry in Thailand. So we actively organize the monthly technical meeting and also the social event. And also we encourage the networking exchange of the knowledge in terms of the technical in the relaxing environment. And on this slide, this company on the logo show on the slide here are the sponsors who support us for the monthly technical meeting program of season 2025 to 2026. And for any of you and who may just join this event and you would like to see your company logo show here and please reach out to us. We still have just begun the season here and we have many months left that we can have your company logo present to the community here. And we truly appreciate your support and of course the society needs you. So in terms of the SPE Thailand membership, so today we have total 485 membership, that including professional membership around 264 and 221 student membership from 4 chapters from Chulalongkorn University, in of Songkla University, Chiang Mai University, and Siranari University. So as you can see in the slide here, the membership significantly dropped month to month and year to year. So please recheck your membership status and also ask your colleagues. And if you need to renew, please do so. And please invite your colleague to join our meeting to get an update and insightful information with our industry. So please be reminded that SPE Thailand is one of the largest professional community here and it's very active section in the Asia Pacific. There are plenty of the reasons that you should maintain your valid SPE membership. Say that. As you can see here in on the slide, but we're mentioning that the key benefit of belonging to the SPE Thailand is one of the most active of the Asia Pacific. It's a regular opportunity for everyone to share knowledge, exchange the knowledge, and socialize, with a peer in the same interest in a relaxing environment. And ladies and gentlemen, we move to the main presentation. And may I ask Kun Kasian, sorry, Kun Panit, to introduce our speaker tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year, and hope you have a great time for the long holidays. I see a lot of smiles tonight, so that's a good start of the year, and hope you have a great year as well. My name is Panit Jesadawaranon. I'm from PTTEP. I'm one of the technical chairperson for SPE Thailand. Please allow me to introduce our speaker for tonight, Kun Philip Askew. Kun Philip is a senior executive and strategist with over 25 years of leadership experience across the global energy and industrial sector. He has held senior roles including founder and CEO, managing director, venture partner, and engineer, working with Avenir Energy, Schlumberger, Carrier, ENOC Ventures, Boston Consulting Group, and Shell. Kun Philip holds an MBA from Darden School of Business in the USA and a first-class honor degree in petroleum engineering from University of New South Wales. His experience spans the full energy value chain, upstream, midstream, and downstream. He has worked with most Asian and OC majors and independents, and he has led P&L capital program, M&A, venture build out, and regulatory engagement while leading high-performing multicultural teams across Asia Pacific and the Middle East. Most recently, Kun Philip has focused on green energy investment and early stage platform, including geothermal development in Thailand and Southeast Asia, alongside broader energy transition opportunities. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Kun Philip Askew.
Well, it's very humbling to be standing in front of all of you. Um, the SPE is very close to my heart, so thank you very much for inviting me. I joined the SPE in 1990 when I was 2 years old because I was so passionate about the industry. That's why I look so young. But it's been close to my heart for a long time. I've been involved with it, and thank you for the opportunity. It's 2026. I hope all of you have success, get through your challenges, which we all have, and I wish you all the best for 2026. And today I would like to attempt to create a case for geothermal in Thailand that it may not just be a dream and it may have a place. I'm not an expert in geothermal. I've been working with some experts in geothermal. There's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of success cases out there. So I'll attempt to navigate the tough questions for Thailand and whether geothermal could have a place. And importantly for this room, what is the role of this room? And I think you will all see, or you all know already, that the oil and gas industry can have a very, very strong role in geothermal if we can get this business into the mix for energy. Okay, let's kick off. There's the pointer. I have the pointer. I thought that pointer. Okay, so titles, is it a real potential for low cost energy? Because it needs to be low cost. Or is it a dream? Disclaimer, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what is the conundrum? Why don't we have a lot of geothermal here? I think if you travel north and you travel south, you'll see a lot of hot springs. So could that be a source of energy? And so far, Thailand has one 300 kilowatt power plant in Fang in northern Thailand. Been operating for 30 years, like clockwork, maybe. So what's missing? Are the resources available? We don't have volcanic rocks here. So are the resources really here? We need to determine that. Are there opportunities to place geothermal into the energy mix, and in what form is really, really important to the discussion. Is the technology proven? Are we trying to do something new? This EGS and all of the AGS and supercritical rocks, it's so exciting and so high tech going on mainly in the US and a bit in Germany. But that's frontier stuff, right? Is that the answer or not? Has it been done before? Do we have analogs? Are they economic? Can we make money from it? Can we do it? Can Thailand do it? Do we have the capability? It's an important, factor. And so what? What's the bottom line for us? And I'll try and propose one and see if you agree, disagree, and we can discuss that during this paper. Okay, so traditional geothermal, plate boundaries on land. Let's get that super hot steam and run it for power. And it works. It works very well in Indonesia. It works very well in California. It works very well in Iceland. And there's lots of projects all over the world blurred out there that you can't see. But some of them are in places that are not quite as hot as the others. And these may be some of the things that we can have a look at and why those are working. Thailand is not this. So is there a case? Well, let's step back to what the whole energy plan for Thailand appears to be. Right? We have domination of the hydrocarbons. It's a big in the mix, and I'll show you the PDP plan in a minute. Renewables is going to save our butt somehow. I don't know how, but it's going to. Massive growth. And by the way, on the hydrocarbons, the super proportion, in 20 years is going to come from imports. So great, that's your plan. Solar and hydrocarbons. Is that a good plan? Well, I would argue LNG. Thailand doesn't own a lot of LNG projects, has no upstream natural hedge. PDTP, it's an opportunity, by the way. And you're exposed to LNG pricing, both fixed pricing and spot. And so far, we haven't really seen solar deliver low-cost power to the market yet as a system. It looks great on its own. It's huge in California. It's huge in South Australia and lots of places in Australia and Germany. But the prices keep going up. So are we hoping or wishing that this mix of LNG and solar is going to deliver to Thailand a low-cost energy mix? It's challenging, right? So can geothermal play a part? Well, it's totally absent from the plan. 100% absent. Doesn't exist. I think the 0.3 sits somewhere here in other. There it is, the 0.3. That other is the Fang plant, right? Out of 51 gigawatts of available capacity. And the plan is to grow by 38 gigawatts in 12 years. Population growth, energy consumption, cooling growth, food processing, and data centers. Apparently, we're all going to need a lot of data centers. That's very high growth. And where's it all coming from? Tiny bit from gas, which means we need to import more while our fields decline. But it's all going to come from solar and somehow be available 24/7. It's going to be challenging. Possible. It hasn't worked anywhere in the world yet, but that's the path we're heading down. So, if we look at Thailand, is there a blind spot here? And this is what I'll propose to you. Thailand's cooling market at peak is 30 to 70% of electricity, depending on what time of year it is. The afternoon peak. The industry's out there sucking in their energy, processing food, but cooling is huge. But cooling's treated as electricity here. I generate electricity and I convert that into cooling through chillers and all of those sorts of things. Is that the right way? Thermal utilities exist in many parts of the world. They're not huge yet. They don't exist in this plan. So could a thermal utility that delivers heat to our $58 billion food export industry and cooling to our hospitals, universities, schools, mulbans, malls with district cooling as thermal, not as electricity, be a way forward? And that's what we'll look to talk about today. I talked about it's a big chunk of the peak. Now, imagine we could create this thermal utility, and let's say we put 4 gigawatts into the market. Not big, not small, 7-8% of the market, but helpful. What does that What does that roughly do? 4 megawatts of thermal. Okay? And 50-50 cooling and heat. What does that do? It would avoid 2.8 gigawatts of new generation. Okay? Around 3 large gas power plants would not need to be built. We'd need to build the thermal. Don't get me wrong, we don't get it for free. We also don't have fuel needs because we get the temperature differences for free. It can sit and shave a big chunk off the peak, which is a big cost. In that 51 gigawatts, we don't need that 51 gigawatts. We only need 36 most of the time. We pay for that other chunk just to sit there spinning for when it gets hot. If we do thermal, we don't need to import LNG for the thermal. We're not exposed to global markets. It's 24/7, and it's $3 billion of capital we don't need to put into gas. Now, we would have to put capital into the geothermal, so you don't get it for free. We'll talk about the economics a little bit later. So that's the big challenge. And so what is some of the conundrum we have within that whole system? And sorry, it's a little small, right? We have the change in the gas pricing, which Andrew, you know a lot about, right? And LNG coming big. That's a big issue coming into the market and to the cost of eventually our energy for electricity and cooling and heating. We have a carbon price coming in soon. What that will do, how that will work, there's a lot of questions on that. Technically, that puts the cost up of that even more. And we have a big demand spike coming for artificial intelligence. Be kind of cool, right? Like in about 2 years' time, you will not have to have any speakers. You just do AI speeches. Yeah. And so if you were to use thermodynamics, well, let me put it this way. If you do the traditional Indonesia, Iceland model, you're taking heat and converting it to electricity. And so you get about 10% efficiency by the time you get all the way to electricity, if you use that hot water. If you do to thermal, just keep it as hot water or dispose of heat in an aquifer, you get about a 90% efficiency. So the argument here is, with all of these problems having, can geothermal be a player? Yes, but not as electricity. It will never compete at the low temperatures of fluids we have in the ground here. But it could compete if we keep it as thermal. So that's the argument there. What price do we need? We need to sit somewhere between gas and coal, right, to be relevant. Can it do that? Good question. Not easy. This is one set of economics for cooling. If you take grid electricity and you take geothermal, although this is EGS geothermal, so it's quite a big swing in costs. This is for refrigeration tons per hour, which I'm highly capable in, or Gemini was quite capable in, I have to say. But there's a gap. There's a gap. Although this is EGS, so it's a bit high cost. This doesn't include some of the other charges in the grid. So the weekday charge, wheeling charges, or whatever they call it, and there's a few other charges. So it might be able to be economic quite quickly. Now, we had the question there, do we have the resources? Well, first of all, if we look at Thailand, these are all the oil fields of Thailand, which you can't read. But we've got oil fields all up and down the country. We know our temperature profiles, we know our geology quite well, all up and down. And in addition to that, we've got tens of thousands of water wells, which the data is all sitting with, I think, the DMF or the DMR. So we know what resources we have, what profiles we have, at what depth, in what geology, in what location. And our profile is not low, not high. So if you look at this chart, it's a bit of an average of a whole bunch of different wells in the country, but you're talking here shallow around the 60, 70. It's kind of the minimum if you're going to be doing low enthalpy work. But up here, if I take the heating side of my air conditioning and dump it in my aquifer, I can get efficiencies. And Chulalongkorn's done the study on this, which is quite cool. And then if I go a bit deeper, I'm getting to some really potential nice temperatures, 120 to 170, depending on where I am in the country. The north is a lot hotter, and then all down the spine here is a lot hotter. Bangkok's pretty benign. These are all pretty benign, but we've got some reasonable temperatures there and I'll show you the applications of those temperatures in a minute. So there's heat available, or a sink to put heat into. So what does that mean for Thailand? Well, we could potentially be doing low enthalpy geothermal in that range, 80 to 150. Conservative estimates put that at 4 to 7 gigawatts, right, around the country. It's not all in one location. This is distributed capacity, and which I believe has a big advantage because you're not doing utility scale developments of this. You're doing potentially behind the meter around the utility developments, which I think is potentially quite strong. In this range, there's plenty of people doing this around the world. It has its challenges like any technical development. It's proven. So that's good. And Thailand needs a lot of cooling and quite some heating. We need to sterilize food before we chill it and freeze it. As I said, I think it's about a $58 billion market for food export from here growing. Indonesia is only about 12 or 15 to give you a relative size. And obviously we've got all the standard infrastructures here, and in many places they're starting to use this for district cooling. Build a new muban. Are you going to put air conditioning in each house, or are you going to do district cooling? And it's modular. So, the muban doesn't have all the houses occupied at the same time. Sure, yeah, it's 2 wells plus 2 wells plus 2 wells plus 2 wells, building up. To some degree, it's scalable. So it could work. And again, I said what it is not. It's not volcanic. We don't have it. It's not going to work. Forget about that. Get that out of your head. And I believe that is a bit of a blocker for our government and for many people. They just can't get away from Indonesia and Iceland and California. That's the only geothermal there is. And more recently, it has to be EGS. You have to be going to 4 or 5 kilometers into super hot rocks with really complicated wells. And it's started, it's going, not proven. High risk, a lot of black swan issues with EGS potential. And as I said, it's not power. That's another critical one that I learned as I was doing this paper. It's not a power story, it's a thermal story. So this is part of the critical learnings that we need to think about. And that means for Thailand, if we go back to the PDP, we don't see there is heating and maybe cooling, but we don't see thermal as an energy input into the total energy requirement. And that may be something that if this ever needs to go big, if we ever really need a lot of regulatory support, this shift has to happen at the ministry level. Again, I would argue that we can do a lot of this work behind and around just like a lot of the solar, if you like, around these big ministry level approvals, but it will still be required. So what's the technology? I think many of you probably know it. I won't try to spend too long on it. Happy to send this out to everyone. Um, this area, ground source heat pump, hydrothermal systems, and a little bit of deeper advanced geothermal is kind of where Thailand can work, right? If we start doing these things, we don't really have the hot rocks like the volcanics, and this part's not proven yet. This is an example of different types of geothermal, which will be important because I'll show you some examples that work on this principle and some examples that work on this principle. And they work, but they're different applications. Pretty obvious. Geothermal as thermal units, or if it's hot enough as electricity units, is there for you all the time. As long as you manage your heat outtake or heat intake, there's lots of things to manage. It's not like solar and wind. So it does have that advantage to be a key part of the energy mix. Bit complicated slide here, but this is ground source heat pumps. I think they talk about it in the UK and they're going to save the world and these sorts of things. But these are being applied more and more all around the world, and you can see the temperature ranges are relatively low. Then you go into your binary plants here. Again, this is Fahrenheit, so again quite low. And this zone is sort of the Thailand zone here. Flash steam, dry steam, we don't have hot enough. Or well, I shouldn't say we do. We'd have to go real deep. And real deep ain't proven yet. Possible to do some experiments, but it's with most of the money for this is coming from big American venture capital, Microsoft, Amazon, to really see if they can crack a high solution. I believe there's a sweet spot in the middle somewhere. And a bit hard to see the data here, but this is the temperature scale here from low to high. You see the electrical power applications here, which I'm proposing is very difficult for us in Thailand, and the heating and cooling here. So you see a whole bunch of applications here: food processing, greenhousing, concrete, fish farming, geothermal, building heating and cooling, drying lumber. A lot of this is right at the heart of what Thailand does and is quite good at. So I believe geothermal in this zone is actually quite aligned with Thailand's competitive advantage. So we have to see whether we can make it work. Is it working elsewhere? Always a good test and a good question to ask ourselves, because, as I said, we only have one plant here, and it's an electric plant, and I'm kind of arguing against that to some degree. So, in Thailand we have these are all hot springs up and down here. So we have quite hot zones in this area, as I said, and less hot here, but still a reasonable gradient. Anybody that's in drilling or logging in the Gulf of Thailand will know that, you have some challenging conditions out there when you're getting to the 4,000-meter wells and the types of tools you need. So we have quite some temperatures, but it's still not volcanic. So what are some analogs? Turkey, I mean, I'll go through a more detailed example on this in a minute. You can see not very high temperatures, 40 to 70 degrees per kilometer, reasonable gradient. Turkey has about 1.6 gigawatts, 1.7 gigawatts working in 4 or 5 different regions there in recent time. It's not small, and I'll show some learnings from that in a minute. China's getting into this in 2 ways. They're using some higher enthalpy fields, food processing, tourism, this sort of thing. I really like the Beijing airport example. We'll go through it in a minute. We're talking tens of thousands of wells and dumping heat or cooling into the aquifer all around the airport. And as you can see, very shallow wells. I think Turkey I'll show you the depth in a minute. These range from shallow to about 2 kilometers. But, keep in mind, as oil and gas people, we need to understand the subsurface when we do this. Drilling 10,000 wells, they might be shallow. It's quite fun. Need to get those right. We got to case them. We got to connect them all together. There's a lot of work to be done here. It fits very well with who we are. and perhaps in the easier zone of who we are. Even in the UAE, they're taking 90-degree water from about a kilometer and a half and using that for cooling. Masdar City, which is the research center for Abu Dhabi. So, you can take the hot water and put it through your absorption chiller system and get cooling or freezing, which is one of the big demands here and in the UAE. And Thailand did an experiment on this at Chulalongkorn back in 2014 through 2016. It was quite a small experiment, but it was using the ground source heat pump thinking and shallow wells, as you can see, 50, just a couple of them. And they were effectively dumping the heat from the outdoor unit into the Bangkok aquifer. And they got some, in that sort of, we'll call it relatively simple test, they got quite some efficiencies on the electricity. So we've done it here in small scale. So here's a bit more on Turkey. You can see 5 different projects here. There's more than this. You can see the capacities. They tend to come in these smaller chunks, but add them up, they start to get more serious. Lower temperature, a little bit mid-temperature. Here, a nice bunch of wells for us to drill, not too deep. But if you look at where they're connected into various systems, it's quite serious. It adds quite a lot of value to their heating and cooling networks in these areas. Often well doublets and communicating a little bit. Couple of the key things before they build it, like all good utility contracts projects, you get a contract for demand before you do it. A few of the early projects were out there building the projects without those and struggled. So having a good customer and maybe some participation from the municipality is key. Some of the risks, scaling and corrosion, you're moving a lot of water around. And they were struggling on injection management, sometimes too fast, sometimes too slow. And you have to be careful how much heat you pull out, because you can be pulling out 90-degree water one month and 80-degree water the next month and 70-degree water the next month. So there's a whole subsurface and reservoir management piece to making this work. And lots of applications for this one. Interesting, in France has been doing this for a long time. If you look at that 1 gigawatt of heating across 50 different projects, not so hot and reasonable depth wells, and using that for district heating and now some district cooling. So there are lots of smaller projects in the mix, which has some advantage and has some disadvantage. When you're doing so many wells and so many projects, we get to do the classic Thailand factory model, and we get to standardize stuff. And we know how to standardize stuff. So if we're going to be doing hundreds of thousands of these wells over the next couple of decades, we should be able to get pretty bloody cost competitive. And we'll talk about that. They managed to get a insurance system in there in France. I don't know how they did it, but that was quite successful and helped them a lot. They underestimated a bit of the chemistry, and that they were a bit overambitious on the drawdown, so they were losing some of the efficiency, driving the whole aquifer temperatures down, so they had to rebalance their reservoir models. China, this is Beijing Airport, 3 gigawatts of cooling, 60,000 wells. Crazy, right? But really shallow. So, again, they got into that factory model. They just like punching these things out, and they can do it in batches and scale it up over time. They had an interesting problem because they were doing so many. They had a contractor management issue, which is not surprising. And the same issue as many others had. How much do I put in? How much do I pull out at each time to manage my reservoir of heat? And this, I believe, has a very, very high potential for cities like Bangkok to be able to do, let's say, Chulalongkorn campus. It's the kids are off for 2 months. You could go and put in some nice systems while they're off underneath the football field. I'm not pitching the project yet, but I kind of am. Good. So it's important in Thailand. Cooling is a big part of the demand. So we need to be reticent that if we're thinking about Thailand, we're not thinking about hot water just for heating. We're thinking about hot water for driving cooling, using that energy and converting it to cooling. The cooling peaks in the afternoon. There's quite a big coincidence. So there's a 9.1 gigawatt national cooling peak, which is important on how you can service that or be ready for that or shave that off and use some gas capacity for doing that. Now, what's the size? This is a very, very first level assessment, but renewables is looking at about 10 gigawatt over the next couple of years. And conservatively, we could potentially be the same. And this is quite very, very conservative estimate. So why, if we can be that big or bigger, why wouldn't be looking at this if it's economic or has a much larger benefit because it's 24/7 and we don't have to buy fuels, right? And all of those other benefits of geothermal. It needs a good look. And obviously there's the whole decarbonization point, right? Carbon prices are coming in. This one can have some benefits. Now, at the moment, it looks like the initial analysis, the upfront capital costs are more in most projects, but your OPEX is a lot lower. So it looks like that even before carbon costs, we should be able to get competitive very quickly or upfront without the carbon pricing. So, what could we do in Thailand? This is just imagining some stuff a little bit on AI. Up in the north where it's quite hot, we can do some really good processing of agriculture. And we can also do some cooling and storage of that before we send it down the logistics chain. If you go down south, can you create a green premium on the tourist sector down there, whether it's into district cooling for some of the the tourist areas there, the airports, the hotels, these sorts of things. Could be. You've also got heating for different processing here, and it may not be able to always do the boiler full heat, but it could be doing a lot of preheating, which will save a lot of energy. And one of the things we started to play with recently is there's a number of biomass electricity plants that are struggling or have struggled and are now in receivership. So could geothermal play a role as a hybrid energy source for generating the electricity in combination with biomass and make it economic? Because the biomass is struggling. We know the geothermal will struggle alone in electricity, but together can they do something? And then a very, very small picture, which you absolutely cannot see. But this is the one, Bangkok, which has a very interesting, cooling system there. And there are a number of corridors where you could put your wells in and help take 10, 20, 30% of the cooling load off a big center like that, which is actually set up to have some plug-in if it needs. And these are, just some examples. I haven't put the universities in or the hospitals and these sorts of places. What's the role for us? I think we kind of all know. I kind of described some of the challenges and, you know what we have to do, but it's kind of end to end. Reservoir, drilling, formation, production, surface, project management. It's kind of what we do. So it should be quite a transferable skill. Our challenges are it is lower energy density. It's not, yay, 5,000 barrels a day and we're doing $250 million a year of revenue, and this is just hot water. And so you're exactly right. This is a utility, which is a bit difficult for us oil and gas people to understand. This is 5, 8, 10-year paybacks, different contracting schemes. It's a pension plan. It just goes on and on and on and on. So it is a bit different, and that would be a little challenging for us to think of. But it has just so many of the same problems, right? We've got pumping, either injection or pumping water out. There's been a lot of surface pumping. They're moving to a lot of ESPs now in geothermal around the world. Boy, do we know those, right? So reservoir problems, decline from poor management. We know how to do that. So a lot of the common problems, I think we can do quite well. And in Thailand, where perhaps even that's generic, but uniquely in Thailand, we have quite benign conditions in a way in our wells, low OPEX, good supply chain of rigs and service companies. So we're already one of the lowest cost drillers, completers and producers in the region. So if we could take that same advantage and turn it over to larger projects in geothermal, perhaps like we have a cost advantage on average versus the other players for many reasons why these costs are different. I would argue that we can turn that and do quite well on the geothermal. So in summary, we've got the heat. It's reasonable. It's not high. And it's there. And it's proven in other places to be economic. It's potentially quite material. If you start scaling this up to the total demand and you double my conservative estimate, this could be 20% of Thailand's energy need for cooling and heating. It's proven by analogs, and Thailand has the capability, so it's been done, and we're pretty good at similar things, so we should be able to do it. How we work next to the PDP is a bit of a challenge, or we work around it. I don't know. And it's got alignment with what Thailand does well. It does tourism well, does hospitality well, it does medical well, it does food processing well. So it can support those sorts of industries. So that's the end of my presentation, and a lovely color map trying to summarize all of that in one place. And where the problems, the business case, the solution, and what we do next. And I'll finish there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So it's time for Q&A. Okay, please.
Hello, Phil. My name is Sasha. I normally work in mining, so no questions, right? Number one, if I understand that correctly, you say from this 51 gigawatt we have in demand, looking at what you just said, we would be able to push this down even further because the regulator looks at this in terms of we generate electricity and then cool. That's why we need 51. But if electricity to cooling is 9-1, we could push this 51 down to, I don't know, 40 or what?
It's kind of like that. Actually, for heating, electricity is not super efficient. For cooling, it's quite efficient because we can take those liquids and turn them to gases and gases and turn them to liquids. So you get quite a good COP factor there. So it's roughly for every 1 megawatt of cooling, you only need about 0.7 of electricity. But heating, it's almost 1-1. So if we're replacing electricity, let's say 10 out of the 51, we will need and a big chunk of that's cooling. We'll probably need about 15 of thermal megawatts to cover the 10 of electrical megawatts roughly.
which is still great, I guess. So thank you for that. Other question, you said a well nowadays is 3 million baht, right? Or was it dollars?
Depends who it is. But
What?
dollars.
It was dollars,
Yeah.
right? So my my question here is, how many of these holes you drill are actually successful, and how many run, you know, away from what you expected, and basically are barren?
In oil and gas.
No, not in oil and gas.
In
I know that-
geothermal?
yeah.
That is a very good question, and I don't know the answer. I would phrase it more if I'm doing 50 to 100 meter wells, there's almost nothing that can go wrong, right? And once I've got 5 in, I put them around my other 5,000. If I'm doing 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer wells, should have not too many surprises, maybe a little bit of high pressure gas here and there, but that we roughly know in many places. I'd say the biggest issue is this excitement around EGS, where people are doing the very deep wells, or they're doing the closed loop, or they're doing the fracking between different wells at 4 or 5 kilometers. Those ones have so many unknowns that while they might say it's 20 million per well for them, it's not shale. It's not what they've done for decades, pumping those shale wells into America. These are much deeper, much hotter, sometimes granitic, sometimes. So they're going to, by definition, they'll have more problems. So I don't know what that would be in a 10 well program instead of 200 million. It's not going to be 200 million. And we'll see that very soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the back? Oh, okay. You first. Please let us know your name, where you're from, and then ask the questions.
Oh, thank you. My name is Robert, and yeah, I was interested in the. I'm a petroleum engineer also. Uh, about the heat pumps, I had made a similar proposal to Singapore, 3-4 years ago, and they were also wobbly about the whole thing. And you're proposing to Thailand right now. So my question is, where are they using something like this in Asia, Southeast Asia, anywhere, or just China only?
I
Or
don't know many applications in South Asia. There could be. I don't know many.
Yeah.
I only know sort of China, Turkey, US,
yeah,
and many places in Europe. It is going to be a challenge. In fact, one of my advisors on this paper said, "Philip, take out the whole attacking the PDP is not having thermal. You'll piss people off." But that's what I do. Yeah, what I hope is that we can work around that because we're not planning to put on 1 gigawatt or 5 gigawatts of
Yeah.
coal or gas or solar. We're talking about 100 megawatts
Yeah.
here and 30 megawatts there.
district heating, cooling.
Then, I don't have to work with EGAT or PEA or MEA.
Yeah, it's
not
a
me or
hard.
whoever's doing it. We don't have to. We'll have to
sell.
work with the groundwater authority in the department of whatever.
Yeah,
But I think we get around geothermal potentially gets around a lot of that at this modularized, scale. I think.
yeah. No, especially when you look at all the air conditioners, individuals, it's such a waste of electricity on all the houses and apartments. It's like, what a mess, that district cooling would really save a lot of money, but it's getting the people to think. That's the tough part.
Yeah, I mean, maybe some of the real people we need to work with here is, the Thai Bevs, the CPs, the SC Asset, Sansiri, because this should save them money or make their stuff more attractive.
Yeah,
And forget,
the glory.
the Ministry of Energy is some nice papers, but I don't think we really need them.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just jump in. Andrew Kirk
Yes.
with B. Grimm, and I'm a geologist. A couple of comments, and I love the talk, by the way. I think it's fantastically
Thank you.
interesting. Yeah, deep closed loop granitic stuff, very difficult. You've got to be looking at stress fractures through the granites and all the rest of it, and it's been tried before, and the losses in your water are just immense.
Agree.
the shallow stuff I find really interesting, especially when you come from a perspective where I come from, and that is all of my power plants exist in industrial parks. Now, in the industrial parks, you don't need to deal with EGAT as long as it's part of the partially regulated system. So cooling for industrial parks in the shallow stuff that you mentioned, which I must admit I know nothing about, I find eminently doable because you do not have to deal with the regulatory and the policy environment of Thailand, which I deal with and is somewhat complex. So if you can avoid it, you can do well. And the industrial parks of Thailand produce so much of the wealth of Thailand, and I think that's a very good way to go.
Great.
So in our culture, we will not stop asking until the student asks. So,
By the way, with regards to the students, I'd like to.
so let me bring the mic to our nominated,
Oh, you've
selected
nominated somebody.
student.
Okay, I was going to elect somebody.
Okay. Okay, my name is Kanapot Pampenyo. I'm from Chulalongkorn University in petroleum major. Okay, my question is, okay, how can thermal energy storage be integrated into geothermal plants to transform them from static baseload providers into flexible, dispatchable assets that can compete with BESS during peak demand?
The first part again.
Sorry, the first part again. You're saying how can geothermal?
Geo- okay, again, please. How can thermal energy storage be integrated into geothermal plants to transform them from static baseload?
No, it's a fantastic question, and there are some really good examples of this around the world. Beijing does this to some degree. So they're using the groundwater, which is a bit colder than ours, for direct cooling into the to the airport. And in some areas, they're putting the waste heat into other areas. So when they need to turn this around to a heating system, they already have some heating in the ground. I think is it Stockholm Airport also does the same. They have some really interesting thermal cycling of the aquifer underneath the airport to support, but that's more to support seasonal variation, which we don't have a lot of. So it's a good question. Could you push enough energy in so you could be pulling it out at various times of the day on the shoulders instead of BESS? Good question. I think we'd have to get the reservoir engineers to have a look at that. I haven't seen that done. I've only seen it at a seasonal scale, not at a daily scale. It could have some challenges and not be that effective. Yeah, and it's thermal energy. It's not burning gas. So no matter how much heat you put in one day from a solar excess system or whatever you pull out as thermal energy, it's not the same as the electricity. Whatever you pull out, you're only getting 10% of that value for electricity. I can't imagine geothermal to be very effective for daily storage. I'm sure someone might prove me wrong, but I just can't see the thermodynamic logic of that. But for seasonal, absolutely. And maybe we can even use that a little bit here in Thailand between the Songkran time and the Christmas time. We might be able to put a bit more cool water into the ground so that when the hot season comes around, we get a very cheap natural advantage from that seasonal. But anyway, good question. And a quick shout out on the students. I was very, very excited to meet on the way in here 2 students. And let's give them a round. They've come from Kanchanaburi Mahidol campus. I think the first time you've joined us. They drove down today to join the SPE meeting. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. And hopefully, last but not least, from our board member.
That better be nice.
Well, I'm Warapat, petroleum engineer from Chevron. You bring a very good point about we can leverage E&P industry to the geothermal, but I believe not only the skill, but maybe the asset. I think that we know that we have thousands of wells in Thailand, and that will be the depleted well before we P&A. And we also due to the geothermal source. Do you believe that we can leverage those wells to try and prove the concept of geothermal in Thailand? And if not, what could be the key challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is the thermodynamics don't work very well for electricity at low temperature. And I think, for the Chevron wells, and let's say we left a 30 well cluster and we just started cycling water between wells, it's possible. But taking that to electricity, which should be a great form to transport to a consumption area, would be great, but we'd have to do the numbers. I'm not sure whether that conversion would be good. The thermal, I guess the question is, if we know that the thermal transfer is much better, we get much more efficiency. What could we do with the thermal piece? I don't know. We can cook prawns offshore, or I don't know what we can do. But
Yeah, but at least we can reduce the due cost, the ring cost of the well, right? Minimize all the cost that should be leverage all those existing wells. And maybe we need to build a facility to support those.
Probably don't need to do much. I think it's a really interesting question. We just need to work out what could deliver value from cycling that water, what we use that energy for. Does that deliver a return? If platforms were going to battery backup at some stage, yeah, you could have one of your old platforms just charging batteries 24/7 and shipping them on boats back and forward for backup for the CPPs. Something like that could work, I could imagine. But it's a resource. The pipes are there. The wells are there. Your question is really valid. So let's think about it. What could be economic?
Thank you.
All right, so that should conclude our Q&A sessions. Again, Kun Philip will remain after this meeting, I'm sure. If you continue to have questions, you can continue to talk to him, perhaps downstairs.
How did you know?
All right. So thank you very much, Kun Philip. It was a great talk. An eye-opening for us, the E&P communities on geothermal. So on behalf of the Board of Directors of SPE Thailand, may I invite Kun Panit to give the token of appreciation for our speaker this evening.
Now for the real event.
Yeah.
The most simple.
Well, thank you, Kun Philip. Well, next will be the closing remark and continue with the Rocky Door. Stay with us. So for the upcoming meeting for the SPE Thailand section on February 19, we're going to have a Dithin Grid lecture, Kun Kriti. So about the self-driving rig navigating the path to close loop during automation. And on the next month in March, we're going to have a joint event for SPE and AIEN. And about the SPWRA upper neighborhood. In the next 2 weeks, on Thursday, 29 January, we're going to have an event at Jasmine City Hotel, Sakura Room. Yeah. It's about the whole case study from around Southeast Asia. In Singapore, they're going to celebrate the 50 year of the SPE. They're going to have the gala dinner, and it's going to be a very interesting event that you can join and build networking and learn about them. You can check on the website for the SPE Asia Pacific upcoming event. There are plenty of events here or the workshop. And please note that we're going to have the OTC in Kuala Lumpur in March. And also the IPTC will come back to Bangkok in 2027. Okay. So you can keep in touch and connect with us, SPE Thailand, via the Facebook, LinkedIn, and Line official account. So you can just scan all these QR code and we can keep connecting. We also have the YouTube channel that will keep all the record of SPE monthly technical meeting that for anyone who cannot join the event on site, so we can have the record for the knowledge, keep sharing, and gonna be a very good reference. So you can check it out in a YouTube channel or you can scan the QR code here. And last, most exciting part is the lucky draw. May I invite Kun Philip?
So it will be quite difficult to promote this item.
Okay.
So tonight we got German cooling plant. Not geothermal. Okay, this is the way of cooling.
So that really fit for someone who have a very hard working.
So the
long working.
luxury person for the long working. If you have long working hour, would be great for you. What is it?
Fowler. Is it?
Download from BSL. Congratulations. This will help for your long hours. Check your lab cooler, hopefully. Please. Set up. Okay. One more, yeah. I hope the student will get it. Okay, not really. May I have Kunrat Rachada from BTTEP. Oh, she just left. Oh, so we have to go again. Okay.
Student.
Student would be fit. Kun Steve from Steve Bowdy from EVI left as well. Redraw, okay. Oh, anyways, okay. Okay. Kun Philip, okay. Your turn. Your job still. Congratulations. Okay, thank you very much.
Well then, last but not least, please give a round of applause to our sponsor for SPE Thailand tonight. So that's going to be the end of technical meeting today. And thank you for coming today. Have a safely trip back home and have a good night. 2 for 1, Simhat. I think we're gonna have promotion 2 for 1 for Landmark Hotel. If you want to continue the networking, please come down to the ground floor. Yeah, and then we can have the continued session. Thank you, everyone.
Hotel